Alright. So Tesl4ever is running a blue-orange. It's not mono-Valk because we have Taproot Worms. Now, running something like Vengeful Heirloom in Valkyries, I mean, if you're going to splash Valkyries, which you shouldn't do, that's fine. It's not a Valkyries deck as far as I'm aware. Again, I do not watch these matches before I do this commentary, so you are seeing the first thoughts and first opinions. I set it to record, and then I fuck off and do other things, usually cook. So, I'm not quite sure where this is going. My first thought, as soon as I see things like that, I do think Valkyrie, but it's got too much that's not... It's a pretty good opening hand. You've got orange to burn for orange, you've got a can henge for your turn 1, then you've got a... What is it? A 3/3 Twin Fire, essentially, turn 2, which isn't bad at all. You've got Rush, you've got Loop, you've got Trap Root for if you have more enchantments, which you should be able to get with Rainbow, so not too bad at all. Cadbury's also got a very decent starting hand. Just looks like sort of purple-blue value at the moment. The only thing I don't like in there is the Field of Poppies. I basically don't think Field of Poppies has a place unless you're running very specific sort of like AoE decks, but none of them are really meta. So, regardless of that, we've got 2 Sword Saints, which is lovely. I would probably burn one of them to get a Ghost in the System out on curve. We've got Eidolon for curve. We've got Einhar for curve. You could go either way with the blue to the purple. You'd probably go the... It doesn't really matter. It depends on what Tesla plays first. With that on the board, you'd probably look at Thane rather than Ghost, but... Let's see what happens. Hey, thank you very much. Waffle falafel. Jesus Christ, that took a moment to translate. Whew. God damn. All these names, and it's just the second I see them, my ability to read the English language fails. Alright. Tesla going first. He'll burn blue. Burn the Volcanic Rissy. That is a turn 4 on curve. The only other thing you have is a Taproot. Junkyard Valhalla could be more useful. Burn your high value. You are not keeping this in hand. There is no way that this card reaches that. Keep things that you are able to play earlier first, okay? Burn your high values. Right? Unless you are Necromantic and you are about to disc them into your graveyard, burn your high values. Okay, Canhenge in the Agile slot. It's blue-orange, so the only Agile you have is the 1-2, or the 2-1 Valkyrie, so that's fine. That gives you sort of central control with a larger minion, so yep. Nice control card. See, Cadbury's got the right idea. He burns the Volcanic Rissy. So they've both gone a 1 enchantment play. Good. He's got the Fragile to compensate for the +1 brought in by Canhenge, which means your Thane is still going to be able to do a lot of... Well, it's going to be able to kill things put there, but it is going to die as a consequence, so I'll be interested to see what he goes. I would probably transition at this point away from Thane and go Ghost, because Ghost will do the same work and you won't lose something as powerful as Thane. I would burn possibly Sword Saint, yeah, and I would Ghost in the System, perfectly done. What does he pull? Whoa, that was quick. Alright, replay system. Could we have a look at what was actually pulled there? Giant Stairway and Frecky Sidecar. And it looks like he's put Frecky Sidecar on top. Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Getting a little rusher onto the field is much better than him having a giant stairway to just replace right when he needs it. You'd put Field of Poppies right in the middle. The reason you wouldn't put Field of Poppies right in the middle is because you're going to have overlap no matter where you put it. You want to put it one off from center. That way he can put the other one here. There, yes. And he'll have all those 6 lanes covered. If he puts it in the middle, even if he puts it over there, he's wasting a lane. There, he's overlapping. So, yeah, he's getting more lanes. Okay, goes for the Vengeful Heirloom. He gets to survive because of it, and now he's got a 5-1 with Frenzy. That's very nice. You could look at doing something like Mutton. I wouldn't. I'd just put a body down. That's decent. He doesn't have the Impel. So, Rogue Eidolon basically isn't anything outside of a combat trick if the enemy deck has Impel. What you can do is if you are on the diagonal or are able to get to the diagonal and strike, you can place it down to essentially trade for nothing. Kill his minion, yours stays on the board. It's essentially a combat trick. It's no different to Die Benediction, right? Until you start looking at like 2 or 3 turns in advance, and if it survives and depends on how he's blocking against it, yada yada yada, right? But in a non-impel deck like this, it is an incredibly powerful card. It's very interesting in that Rogue Eidolon definitely has 2 different states to it. 2 different mindsets, and it all depends on the power they have. So it doesn't have Impel, that's fantastic. I prefer in the middle control lanes 3 and 5. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can put it in the middle to block there and there, but I'm still going to prefer more board coverage, especially seeing as he is going to have a lot of enchantments. You're going to need to cover as much of the board as you can with things that'll compensate for some of the buffs he's going to get. Alright, draws a Valkyrie Enforcer. So he could bounce that with Valkyrie if he wanted to. It's more likely he'll just put something like a Thane there and hope he doesn't have an enchantment. If he's not going to pray for the enchantment, he'll go a Sword Saint. Just depends. He could Field of Poppies to get that coverage going and Sword Saint. It won't keep his boy alive, but he could Field of Poppies and Einhar, which would keep his boy alive. But again, that's if he's hoping that there's no... Oh, does he go for the Impel and the swing? No, because he swung there. What am I doing? I mean, I get that in that he's trying to back up this. If this is somehow taken out by, like, Frecky Sidecar or something, or in some way combat tricked to survive, like we've seen him do, because he does know he has the Vengeful Heirloom in hand. Yeah, okay, getting that to within the blast range, he doesn't have the Impel. Sure, I'm actually not against that in the slightest. That's a reasonable move. Considering that's the only buff we know... Whoa, okay, settle down. Didn't know I could do that. Considering that's the only buff we know of, he could have risked the Field of Poppies and just that, because that still would have been in kill range. But, considering that it is Rainbow, it's more reasonable to go a safer approach. Right? So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Blast 3, it's a large blast value. The problem is he is taking damage each time on that second Frenzy hit. Gets a giant stairway. Ooh! It's that spicy shit. Very nice. Gets the health pool a little more even, clears that off. He goes for a Field of Poppies. Okay. I will just stress this again. Field of Poppies isn't a great card. Unless you're specifically working with it. You're just polluting your enchantment field at this point. I would much rather draw a Canhenge 100% of the time. It's not. It's newer blue players. They see it. It's 3 lanes of Fragile. Absolutely. You don't need it. I would have rather drawn a Canhenge, which has a better effect than Field of Poppies. Because Field of Poppies is essentially just a +1/+0 to your minion that is attacking. Right? The only difference is when it comes in with, like Cadbury is saying here, a lot of AoE. We're talking Fort Lightnings, we're talking Thunderbolts, we're talking... Thunderclap, Maelstrom, etc., right? That is when it comes in. So, yeah, absolutely. If your deck is centered around that, absolutely, get that. Tesla's isn't. Very obviously it's not, so I would remove it from Tesla's. If this is what Cadbury wants to be doing with his deck, sure, absolutely. Oh, I'm sure we'll pick it up, my friend, and that's alright. Mistakes are what we're here for. We're here to learn from these things. We're here to pick up the advice. He gets a Trap Root down on Field of Poppies, so that is essentially a 7/6 at this point. And to continue my earlier point, Field of Poppies is a +1/+0. Cadbury is a +1/+1. If you're not doing AoEs, that is just a straight up better 1 and blue, right? Continue. Alright, we've got Cataclysm. That's pretty. I have a feeling that's probably what you're going to fuck up. A lot of people forget that it hits everything. Okay, beautiful. Mutanmorphosis. Perfect target. Wow, that song is really loud, isn't it? Give me a moment. Alright, let's just make sure the voice is always the predominant thing here. Alright, gets a Xerxes Sympathizer down. This feels like a little bit of whatever I have. It also feels just a little bit like... I mean, I get what he's doing. He's going, let's take Zealot Rebel, let's chuck it on some blue enchantments, Taproots to fill up some, like, high-end, because I'm going to have these enchantments anyway, and Frecky Sidecar allows me to rush in, like, I have a Xerxes Sympathizer out, I drop a Xerxes Sympathizer, cool, rush all these things in, right? That's probably the best Mutton I've ever seen play. Taproot is extremely vulnerable to it. You see a 6/6, you're like, there is no way that's in Mutton range. It 100% is, and it's fantastic doing. It's one of the slight issues with Taproot, because any sort of cost or power-based, it can be removed fairly easily. A lot more removal hit it than a lot of other 6/6s, for example. Alright, we get a Frecky Sidecar down, so that gets to rush straight through, that gets to rush through, and he gets hit with a sheep. Mate, death by sheep, let's do this. Valkyrie Enforcer doesn't help us a ton. Tarragons aren't bad. Tarragons will force a fairly large trade here. He could pretty much ignore the sheep, go here, and that way he's out of Field of Poppies. The Field of Poppies also 100% should have gone here. And an Impel and Blast would also clear this. He'll take some damage from it, but it's not enough to not justify doing it. You could even Biting Blade if you wanted to. There's all sorts of things that are possible here. In fact, yeah, like So What's saying, he's actually got enough to do both if he burns. And I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. Oh no, he goes for the Biting Blade. Interesting, okay. Yeah. It probably would have been better to just ignore the Biting Blade. 2 health is 2 health. You'd move it over, swing, you burn, you'd have 5, you'd go Tarragon on the Giant Stairway. Whereas this turn, you've wasted 4 mana. As Alexandra is sort of saying there, got to look at maximizing things, right? Maximize your presence on the board in a trade. Maximize the amount of minions you have on the board, even if you're not trading. Maximize the amount of mana you've spent in a turn. Always be burning if you can afford to. Don't ever leave that much floating, you know? 2 health isn't worth it. Biting Blade and you have Tarragons in hand, hold your Biting Blade. Right? Okay, goes a Vengeful Heirloom. Oh god, it's a 3/2 sheep. Death by 3/2 sheep! Also, technically, cost the Biting Blade, which is very useful for later swings. Yeah. But that's right. This is what we're here to learn. Right? The best players are the ones that can learn from their mistakes. Right? This is why I say, never surrender unless your opponent literally has lethal on the board for next turn. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because every mistake, every match you get absolutely hammered in, you're going to learn more than just wiping some dude off the board. We get another Twin Fire Zealot. He's been really lucky with these draws, but he just gets to move that across. Eidolon with Impel from the center can reach every space in the board. Just so everybody knows that, you can hit every space in the board. He bounces the sheep, which kills it. Good idea. You've got some spare mana, but again, almost would have liked to see a Tarragon instead. A sheep doesn't matter that much. Mind you, that does get rid of the Vengeful Heirloom, so there is a benefit there as well. Sandscape. So I imagine this deck has Earthslide in it somewhere, but at the moment, now you're doing too many things. You've got Sandscapes in there, you've got these enchantments in there, you've got Field of Poppies, you've got Zealot Rebel synergy. You've got, Rush. You've got Taproot Worms. I would get rid of the desert side of things. I would cut the blue enchantments down to just Canhenge, Demolition Heights, Speedway, and Giant Stairway. And then I would add Zealots on top of that if you wanted to stick with the deck. You're about to miss lethal. Oh, yes. Good. Let's go. Okay. He plays down the Junkyard Valhalla. I feel like he could have played that down a couple of turns earlier to get some additional value from it. Again, I can't check the graveyard. Just a limitation of the format, I'm afraid. I suppose what I should do, just thinking about the format quickly, is go and check if the match is still in their replays first and use that. It's probably not a bad idea. We get a Terragon down on the Field of Poppies, which is the Fragile against the Junkyard Valhalla. Absolutely great. If anything, he could have put the Junkyard Valhalla somewhere over here, just replaced it. Like, who cares about a desert when, you need to... Yeah. And he should have used the Cataclysm. Yes, that was lethal. That's okay. You miss lethal sometimes. So like, that's a minion. I have to get a minion down. I just hope you do it now. This should be lethal. Cataclysm? Nope. He goes for the Pearl. He goes for... Oh, that's lethal regardless, but yeah. Okay. Not too bad at all. I'll give Cadbury his winner screen. Very nicely done, my good sir. Let me get my notepad up. Mark down who won that. And that's Tesla with 1 pack. All right. What was the turning point? What made you win that? Because you could have won it a lot easier, a lot earlier. Playing your Terragon here would have ended the game a turn earlier, if not 2. You missed a lethal at the end there with Cataclysm, which you just need to pay attention to that. Again, I said it last Academy, rule 1 is go and check out everything on the board and everything in your hand. Look at health total, look at path, look at power, check rules. You're looking for Slayer, you're looking for Fragile, you're looking for any zany little effects that affect just the base values. If you'd taken just a little bit longer to go and look, you would have seen like, oh shit, he's only got 5 health and Cataclysm will finish it. Right? Where did this swing for Tesla? Where this swung for Tesla was he got no card draw all game. There was no cards in hand, and he doesn't have Turn of Seasons making up for it. Like, Cadbury got not even that low. He got to 3s and 4s occasionally. A lot of that's because he spent a couple of turns just not burning mana. But Tesla definitely ran out. He probably needs some sort of Brainstorm or a Parry at the Gates. If you're running orange, Parry at the Gates is a mandatory card. You know those Sandscapes you have in your deck? Take what I imagine is 2 of them out. Put that in. Parry at the Gates. You need card draw. If you don't have Turn of Seasons, you need stuff, right? It's really unfortunate that this survived as long as it did. That did a lot of work for you, and sometimes that's just how Eidolon can be. If you don't have removal for Eidolon, Eidolon could stack up value really, really quickly. Especially in a deck where you're not having a ton of synergies and the values are staying fairly low. It's just able to blast and sweep things. The Vengeful Heirloom's nice. I don't see it played enough. It's a decent card. Especially on... I think it's especially good on, like, synergy decks where just values start stacking up higher and higher and higher, and then you've essentially just got a looping value generator, right? And yeah, at the end there, you just drew enchantment after enchantment, and, like, a useless thing there. Did you play that into a... Yes, you did. Okay, yeah. There's not a lot you can do there. As soon as he draws and it's a Sandscape, you've lost. That's where it lost there. Okay, there you go. Laser would rather play an additional enchantment than an heirloom. There you go. Fair enough. In Rainbow, you also want Divination for card draw, so like Ifrit. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, he was definitely just trying to use it to get the enchantments to help maybe a Zealot synergy. Mind you, we didn't see anything outside of Sympathizer and Twinfire. I'd love to like have a chat with him, see if it's a case of it's just what I had, or if this is an idea he's had. Either way, it's not terrible. It definitely needs some tweaks. Yeah, I think that's about all I have for that one. It's good to see you do have some sort of larger removal in there, even if it's just a 1-off or a 2-off. You've got Cataclysm for reach. Yeah, if you want to stick with that deck, mate, I don't know if you have enough to justify Field of Poppies in that. I'd almost just prefer, like, any other cards. But if it's a case of it's kind of what you have, like, if you don't have things like Perfect Grade in there, and you have it, Daikoju Supreme, God of Gamers, etc., that's where you'd start removing, is Field of Poppies. Everything else in that deck is a pretty good card. Like, I'm not opposed to it at all. I think getting rid of Giant Stairway with Ghost helped me a lot. Okay. Oh, right. Yes, early on. Yeah, absolutely. If he'd had that generating value early on something like this, would have been a lot bigger problem for you. 100%. This blast wouldn't have been lethal. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Giant Stairway was a great pick. And he just didn't see one. He just didn't see another, which is super unfortunate for him. By the time he started seeing enchantments that increase his minions' value, he was receiving no minions, which is, again, like, don't have Field of Poppies, don't have Sandscape, and you're going to draw enchantments or minions that will help you instead, right? It's just a matter of refinement in his deck and yours. And you are just... My main tip would just be slow down and read just a little bit more. Work out some maths in your head and maximize your mana expenditure. Apart from that, I think your players were good. You definitely know how to use your Eidolon, which is always nice. You see a lot of newer players messing up Eidolon. So yeah, not too bad at all. Very nicely done, my good.